Hello out there. What the science is happening? I hope everybody had a good weekend. This is our second segment of the day here on Monday, 4/4/2022. I didn't add any cool science fun stories to our first segment of the day, which was just all politics, and that's no fun. So I just wanted to get everybody caught up on all those really cool and crazy things happening in our world, because our world is full of a lot of exciting things that get drowned out by a lot of the drama of politics and the current culture and everything else that's just kind of going on in our world. So real quick, before I jump into some of our science stories today, I found this funny tweet from Elon Musk last night, and it definitely got me laughing to myself. I don't know, maybe you'll find it funny, maybe not. What really made me laugh was actually Lex Friedman's comment on Elon Musk's comment. So he said, "Humanity did not evolve to mourn the unborn." And then Lex followed up with, "A moment of silence for the 500 billion sperm cells produced by the average human male in one lifetime, each genetically unique." And then Musk followed up with, "Well, seriously, one of them could have been Einstein." And I know that's super nerdy and maybe not that funny to you, but that cracked me the F up last night and had me laughing out loud by myself for a couple minutes. So anyways, our first nerd story of the day is NASA's Perseverance rover helps scientists find sound travels slower on Mars. So, since landing on Mars more than a year ago, NASA's Perseverance rover has used its microphones to capture the sounds on the red planet, including its harsh winds and the hum of ingenuity cutting through the atmosphere. And now those recordings have helped scientists discover that sound travels differently on Mars than it does on Earth. In a study published on Friday in the journal Nature, researchers said they determined the red planet's thin carbon dioxide atmosphere causes sound to travel slower on Mars, with sound pitch further affecting its speed. On Earth, sound typically travels at 767 miles per hour. Whoa! But on Mars, scientists determined that low pitch travels at approximately about 537 miles per hour, while high-pitched tones and sounds seem to travel at 559 miles per hour. So, were you to visit Mars, that means you would hear high-pitched sounds slightly earlier, and then on Earth, the sounds from an orchestra, would reach you at the same speed, whether they are low or high. But imagine that on Mars, if you're a little far from the stage, there will be a huge delay. It's crazy. And it's hard to imagine that different pitches and tones reaching you at different speeds. Imagine having a conversation with somebody really enthusiastic, like maybe even like with somebody like me who's always messing around. Does our universe have a mirror anti-universe, and could it reveal dark matter? Elizabeth Rain wrote on Yahoo, "It's one of those things you think about at 2 a.m. after a Twilight Zone marathon. Is there such a thing as mirror universe? And if there is, what would we see in this mirror? This goes beyond just the mirror universe. Try an anti-universe, a new theory that suggests the universe we live in has this sort of anti-universe running backwards in time, and it only gets weirder from there, because its existence could mean something's floating around in the universe would make it possible to detect dark matter. That something is a subatomic particle known as a neutrino. And what makes this particular hypothetical type of neutrino so intriguing is that it supposedly behaves like dark matter, and if it can be detected, minds will be blown. The thought that actual experiments could determine the existence of matter we cannot see or feel seems really just unreal. But physicist Latham Boyle, he went there, he took it there. There is a sort of symmetry in the universe that might mean there has to be an opposite mirror image. Boyle of the Perimeter Institute of Theoretical Physics in Ontario, Canada, led a study soon to be published in Annals of Physics. Yep, that's right. Which explains how the symmetry can be used to illuminate dark matter. In our theory, the Big Bang is a kind of exotic mirror, he told Sci-Fi Wire. In an extraordinary mirror, it is as if the world on the other side has one of its spatial directions reversed, whereas with the Big Bang, it is one as if the world on the other side has time direction reversed. I know it's crazy. It's confusing, isn't it? So time is turned on its head instead of space. This is what happens when you take the concept of Cbt symmetry and go beyond just applying it to forces and fields and instead apply it to the entire universe. Cbt symmetry stands for change, parity, and time reversal. When you reverse charge, theoretically, you have antimatter instead of matter. Then you have time and space. Reversing parity is what flips the direction of space, and obviously, apparently this is obvious, reversing time makes it run backwards. Having a mirror universe keeps Cbt symmetry together. If the Big Bang is a mirror, then we are on one side. The aftermath of the explosion that is thought to have birthed the universe would be asymmetrical if there was no reflection. Seeing the universe as an object in itself instead of a mashup of different forces and fields that each have their own interactions gives it an anti-universe under Cbt symmetry. It can only achieve symmetry when it has an opposite in which time runs backwards. If this is reality, then what is defined as a vacuum state? Void particles leads us to seeing dark matter, I guess. The article went on to say, here is where dark matter could be revealed. The Big Bang is seen as having one vacuum state, while fields, including the right-handed neutrino field, have another. If we existed in the same vacuum state as right-handed neutrinos, space would be devoid of these particles. However, because we exist in the Big Bang vacuum state, that means particles in all other fields have to exist, meaning the right-handed neutrino must exist. That would also mean that it is out there behaving like dark matter. Suddenly, dark matter has particles that can be detected. Whatever. Anyways, another one by Elizabeth Rain. That's kind of crazy as well. It's kind of hard to imagine this one if you just thought that last one was crazy. This one is a lot crazy. So you can reprogram cells. That's right. Scientists are figuring out ways to reprogram our cells, and it's kind of like a computer, right? And they're thinking they can now upgrade our cells. So here's another article by Elizabeth Rain. Human stem cells can be rebooted so they can morph into completely different cells. Now that this already futuristic method has been leveled up, it sounds like more like something out of science fiction, and it sure does to me. This isn't about designing humans like embryos that could not choose their fate in that Brave New World movie, or reprogramming naive pluripotent stem cells, which I'm honestly not even sure about. I was just intrigued to share this with you because of the whole reprogramming cells, but this is really where they lost me. So if you understand this, great. Anyways, they're saying that it's this was possible before, but a recent researcher, Peter Ruggun, and his team from the Barbraham Institute of Epigenetics research program in the UK have figured out how to get past some potential glitches. Ruggun, who led a study recently published in Science Advances, has found out what can further promote reprogramming and even which protein to inhibit so it doesn't get in the way. So this naive pluripotent stem cells can be specialized into both embryonic, or like future embryos, and extra embryonic, future placentic and yolk sac cell types, he told Sci-Fi Wire. This makes them hugely exciting and valuable for studying the very early stages of human development. Pluripotent stem cells can self-replicate and create cells for every type of issue in the human body. In their naive phase, they can take on the same properties as the cells of an embryo before implantation, including influences on gene expression that are not inherited and come from an outside source. I mean, that is just crazy. Think about that. Including influences on gene expression that are not inherited and come from an outside source. So would that mean I can grow my hair back? Anyways, they are also able to do something other than pluripotent cells and are not capable of, so they're saying they're able to do, certain things with these pluripotent cells, but they're really not capable of doing all the things that they're imagining here. And they are referring to this as a form called extra embryonic cells. So in the absence of pluripotent cells that come straight from an embryo, naive PSCs can also be formed by deleting the identity of specialized cells. So That's also tough to wrap my head around. So they're saying that not only could you influence your cells and introduce, new things from the outside, not just things you inherit, but they can also take the things that you're inheriting and basically essentially delete it. That's just, man, that's nuts. Kind of reminds me of gene doping. I've thought about doing an episode on gene doping. If you're not familiar with that, check it out. It's kind of crazy. It's been around for a while. Like, if they've taken these animals and like pumped up the muscular gene, for example, and you could see these like huge, immense, powerful animals, and it's like freaky. It's like, imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime, and like basically all these animals just look like the Arnold Schwarzenegger of animals walking around. Anyways, back to this article. After screening for genes that both promote reprogramming and hold it back, the researchers figured out some reasons made previously reprogramming attempts were not that efficient. So reprogramming needs the epigenetic complex PRC1.3. The process involves some different signals that might be fired at cells, trying to tell them what to become, and it is thought that this C1.3 helps them resist the onslaught of signals. It supposedly keeps them from turning into something else besides naive PSCs by preventing certain genes from switching on. It surprised us that the rebuilding blocks of the PRC1.3 changed depending on whether the pluripotent stem cells were in a naive or primed state, said Rug Gunn. Before we discovered this, that was thought that CRC1.3 was always formed of the same components. Some experiments in which PRC1 was removed ended up with cells that fast-forwarded in a specialized cell type instead of rewinding to the naive phase. They have a tendency to turn into nerve cells for some reason. The researchers think that some cells might be making this PRC1.3 with different ingredients than others, depending on what they want to specialize in, something that also happens early on in human development. It is possible that this complex protects unspecialized cells in embryos, and that things don't always go as planned. Well, no shit. Anyways, that sounds like some made up science stuff, doesn't it? It definitely sounds like it's straight up out of a movie. I talk about this book I'm reading a lot called Superintelligence, and they've had chapters on brain emulation, which I actually did an episode on that. It was one of my more raw episodes when I first started doing this. But they've also talked about like cyborgs, and how we could take brain emulation, and how we could take kind of what we know about the human brain, and if we can learn how to do things like manipulate our cells and turn certain things on or turn certain things off, and then we can take artificial intelligence and just kind of take all these things together that we're learning, and as we learn more about evolutionary psychology and biology and all these things, every 10 years we look back and we know so much more than we did before. I don't know, man, it's getting crazy. So after I read this article, I went back, like my brain jumped back to that book and was thinking about how there are literally people out there studying artificial intelligence and the human brain, evolution and its biology, seeing what they can do with certain cells, seeing what they can and turn on and off with electrical stimulants, and it's just all kinds of stuff. You got Elon Musk, with Neuralink trying to put computer chips in our brains. I mean, it's just nuts. I imagine all the health benefits of being able to reprogram a cell, but what else could you then do? Could we reprogram a cell that has cancer and turn off the cancer? What exactly can they reprogram? It sounds like this is still more of a theory, a hypothesis, but are literally in the process of trying to prove it to be true. I consider myself to be extremely curious, and part of the reason I do so many random episodes on the Jay Rooney Show, I'm just intrigued by all this random stuff, and I think we should all be curious to learn about the amazing things happening in our world. So we started today's episode with a tweet from Elon Musk, so let's finish one from Elon Musk. He said, "I'm inspired by curiosity. That is what drives me. So let us expand the scope and scale of the consciousness so that we may aspire to understand the universe." Jay Rooney Show.